Episode 4.
Yes, sir.
We're diving in. New Year's and 3 problems. Where your 2 fucked up uncles on the Long and Thick podcast help you navigate the noise and cut through the bullshit. Here we are. The power of New Year's is profound.
It really is.
We're here.
Culturally ingrained to have a new precedent for your life, to start a bunch of new endeavors, habits.
Yep.
Better systems, or so we claim.
Yep. Leave no stone unturned. Every single aspect of your being is now new and transformed and needs to be completely different, or so you think. It gets to be a lot, right? Like people make fun of it a lot. In the last week, I've been seeing just the oh no, I woke up at 4:01. Like I fucked up my whole, I'm already off to the wrong start. And I didn't cold plunge and do my meditation and journal and eat a sunflower. The thing is just it's so absurd.
Yeah. Very convoluted, very fast. And people ant pile themselves with a bunch of new things to take on without really considering the ramifications of what all that extra stuff does to their schedule, their sanity, all of those things.
And I get it, because everything is commercialized and capitalized on. Yes. And so it was people were like, oh, money? Sick. We're going to fuck some people over. All the gym memberships, all the new Factor meal subscriptions, and everything possible that can be attached to that idea that makes you feel like, oh, I'm on the right foot on the first day. I've got this. Someone's trying to collect something from you.
Oh, it's one of the biggest pump and dumps in our sphere, so to speak.
For sure. And so it's really tragic, because when you consider how profound you can feel and the motivation that tags along, it can really be used to set you up for success if you treat it the right way. And it does, I'm not saying this is the best way to launch your health, but we are such a tribe-driven creature.
Yes.
Right? And so humans have this innate sense of needing to belong in whatever sphere that is. We used to belong to hardcore scenes and very different lifestyles, and you will behave in the way that you want your social circle to accept you in, and you'll just completely transform that stuff. And so you can use that to your favor, but you have to be intentional and smart about it. And it's much easier to mess up than that initial novelty that just sweeps you off your feet and romanticizes everything. What do you feel like? We're going to talk about 3 problems through this episode. We're going to talk about staying consistent, which is duh. But we talk about February, March, the huge drop off. Everyone's yeah, I missed last week. And so then work and blah, 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 and things happen. We're going to talk about the lack of support that follows that transition from
the tribal shift, so to speak.
Exactly. And how to even begin to navigate that and try to find some semblance of balance to it. And then lastly, the overcomplication from eating the sunflower at 3:33 a.m. and sunning your asshole at promptly after, right? That's, you don't need to do that. There's a lot of low hanging fruit that people harp on. And so those are the things we're going to dive into. Can you shed some light on just if there's any other things that you see in your experience firsthand in the gym, even a shift with maybe client adherence and excitement in the new year and new goals and things like that? Anything that sort of sparks up for you?
I mean, it's pretty obvious in the sense that this seems to be the tent pole time that people just pick that are going to start all of these new scenarios. And this year is going to be different than the last. It is a great starting point. The fact that you say there's a societal emphasis on, hey, let's collectively all do better.
Yeah.
Which is a powerful starting factor, but it's this crazy cumbersome race in all these directions. And you're sprinting through January into February and wait, what am I doing?
Yeah.
This sounds really fun, but the real success comes with real work. And I didn't account for how much needed to actually change. And the fact that I may have just taken on a cold plunge or a yoga a couple times a week, or maybe gone on one extra walk, all great things.
Yeah.
But the problem I find is that the inspiration a lot of times is not organic to the individual. Back to being tribal, it is a lot of peer pressure or fear of missing out, that like, oh, well, my neighbor, my significant other, my coworker, they're on this new path. Well, I can't be slumping behind. I also need something. So the problem I see coming into the new year, whether it be fitness oriented or just systems oriented, is that people will adopt habits and sensibilities that they have no real resonance with.
Yeah.
And that is a problem, where how people can start down this path, but very quickly are confused about where to take it, because it just happened from someone else's inspiration or someone else's hand. And, you know, a big one for me, I can't condemn it outright, but like 75 hard. You are giving someone an aggressive set of circumstances with an immediate out. And very few people actually keep the discipline
Past that 75th. Yeah. 76 comes and you're like,
well,
I'm gonna fucking rage, brother. Yeah.
So that is ultimately what I see the most difficulty with adherence, is because the inspiration isn't organic in the person. They are not actively like, okay, this is exactly what needs to change. I want to put in, you know, tangible and realistic goals to get there. It's just a flurry of new ideas and hopes at the very beginning of the year, without really a landscape of how that can take them past when things stop being sexy and the honeymoon phase is over.
Yeah.
And they're just left in this desert landscape of like, oh, I just need to keep trudging.
Because no one cares anymore.
Right.
Meaning it started because you probably, there's a part of you that may not have even cared to begin with. You just, like you said, didn't want to be left out. And at the water cooler talking about, even though that doesn't happen anymore, how funny is it?
Very remote culture now.
Yeah. Like, but it's the same heart. Like, you don't want to be like, oh no, I haven't changed anything. But it's, I think a lot of like the 75 hard, or things that feel so much of like a huge flip, is like, you share it on your Instagram. Here's my picture. I did my thing. Like, look at this. It's not, it's not for you.
No, it's performative for everybody else.
It's performative. And even in that, I'm still like, you can still use that. You don't have to throw all of that away, but understand that there needs to be like a deeper core why. Simon Sinek always has a Start With Why. I think it's a book, where you're like really soul searching to find like do I want to be 78 and a bag of shit, and like I can't move and everything hurts and my memory sucks and my health is just like deteriorated because I didn't invest in it all my life. Right. And like, yeah, I did some cool stuff and did a pull-up challenge and blah, blah, blah. Like, no one cares. No one's like on their deathbed looking like, man, remember when Daniel like did that crazy month of like, or I used to do it every January. I would do 10,000 kettlebell swings for the month, and it sucks, and it's not good. It's not good training. It's literally just a bad idea. But the stealing of your mind, as you've put it in the past, like there's value in that.
Sure.
And being able to like push through the discipline, but you need to then use it. Like, you can't just like do the thing and be like, well, bye. It doesn't work with your health. It doesn't work with investing, money. It doesn't work with your relationships. These principles that we talk about in our time here is like, these things apply to every avenue of your life. We're just narrowing it into how you can look at your fitness and wellness in the same way that you probably view a lot of other things, and connect those dots. So I like that people have that big social boost. But we want to make sure that you have some tools to like keep the train rolling when the coal's running low, shit's feeling heavy, it's ugly out there, and you're like doing it on your own. And like, how do you navigate that? And so I think it's important to recognize, and I hope that some people feel like seen and heard and understood in being like, yeah, that does happen to me. And there's no shame.
Yeah. And that's where people also, I think, get this blind hope wrong is, I'm sure you can agree, like motivation, it's at an all-time minimum. Like it's not easy to come by. Like motivation, like you and I don't wake up in the morning and we're like, oh, this has to happen. No, we've put systems in place and we were consistent for long enough where these are now character traits
Sure.
that do bode better health outcomes.
But it's still a battle.
It is still a battle. And that is where the new year, new me explosion of hope thing kind of misguides a lot of people, because beyond the shiny coin, new sensibility, the honeymoon phase, the work is actual work.
Yeah.
And that is where everyone's consistency falls off, because you're reminded that like, oh, well, I did this for like 6 weeks. Like what about now? It's like, no, we need to turn that into 6 months and then 6 years.
Yeah.
And then, if you hopefully live long enough, 6 decades.
Yeah.
It needs to compound. And much like you said, like investing, you only get back as much as you put in, and you have to constantly put in. And it's tough for a lot of people because it is such a, sense of camaraderie and this grandiose thing that you're starting this new year with these lofty goals. But like any goal setting, if you do not have a simplicity to it, a time-based component to it, and something that has both a short-term goal and a long-term goal, if I just said, okay, 2025, I want to become fitter. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah. And what does it mean for you?
Right. And like, where direction does that take you? What's the first starting point? What's the transition to when you actually have your stride and you have to maintain this? Like most people don't get specific enough with their goals and also conservative enough with their goals to allow consistency to really take shape.
Yeah.
It just becomes either too confusing and too nebulous of an idea. I'm like, well, I'm just walking around in circles. I think I'm getting fitter. I'm doing stuff.
Yeah.
Or the goal is specific, but is very unrealistic in terms of what's possible in a new year's time.
Sure. I think as we dive into staying consistent, I want to challenge anybody listening to think about that exact question. Like if you want to be more fit and have a greater grasp of your wellness and your health, you need to define what that means in a way that is purely like your definition.
Sure.
You can Google it, you can chat GPT it, you can look for inspiration, you can ask your friends, ask other people. What does that mean to you? You and I have very different ideas of fitness, right? And neither is right or wrong. People have this like idea attached to like this is what fitness looked like. For a little while it was CrossFit. Like to be the fittest on earth was like you need to be super well-rounded. A hybrid athlete is being really fit, right?
Sure.
Maybe take Nick Bear and ask him to scale a V6 wall. He might do good because he's just like super fit, but he doesn't have the same qualities of fitness and strength as somebody like a rock climber who can hold themselves up with this little pinch. Like that's where the differentiation comes, and like really owning the thing that keeps you inspired and you can keep falling back on instead of just some like lofty, like, I don't know. And you should, if you're asking yourself this question, you should think like, I want to bench 225. Why? Challenge yourself. Why? It's not a combative why. It's just like, why?
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? Does it mean someone will think you're strong and cool? Maybe like wrestle with that a little bit, because that's not going to be enough, right? It needs to be for you. It needs to be like, because that number feels significant to me, because my grandpa used to always talk about training, and I want to be like as strong as he described his strength feeling when he was in his youth. Yeah. Now we're getting somewhere.
Sure.
Now you have some kind of attachment to things that are like a fuller body of rationale. And you need to build that up more and more and more so that you can fall back on that on the morning that you're like, I'm sore.
Sure.
I feel a little bit like shit. The last thing I want to do is drive to the gym. It's it's far, it's annoying. I don't want to see people. I don't feel attractive. Whatever. Like, you get out of your own way more when you have that thing.
Yeah, a North Star, something that's way above the clouds in the sense of like, oh, yes, life's not agreeing with me today. My emotions are not agreeing with me today. But I have this thing that I set in motion for myself that is really important, that I've attached my mind and my emotions into. And I think it would behoove me to continue to seek this out for my best good and overall health. But yeah, you're going to have demonic moments where you wake up and like, I want none of this.
Yeah.
This is, and again, you will have to constantly reflect and reevaluate. And you're like, okay, is that still important to me? Yes. Get the fuck on with
Why?
it. Yeah.
And it's going to change, right? Yours has changed as time has gone on.
Sure.
Some of the motivators change. Some of the like intrinsic values. You might meet somebody that like takes you on a different path and you're like, wow, my fitness actually looks now like I want to be able to travel really well, and navigate all the things of like hiking. And you don't need to weigh 300 pounds of pure rock to like hike well. Like, there's other things you can do to train for the things you want to do. So start to paint that picture for yourself, and staying consistent will be much easier versus being like, all right, it's January 1st. I just bought new shoes, new shorts, new stuff. I spent a lot of money that has rewarded me and told me that I'm already doing the right thing, when you didn't do anything.
Right.
You spent your money, you made a decision, good for you. That's still like a step. I'm not disqualifying that entirely, but the like, look at me go sense is no, it's not there yet. You didn't actually do anything that has furthered your goal. You could have worn the same shitty shoes, and I work out in jeans, like, and like there is no limiter there. So that's not enough. So what do you think are some of the most profound things that you have realized for yourself? And if it's the same things that we just reiterated, so be it. But if there's anything else that like moments that have kept you moving forward, good or bad, I think it's important to recognize even when they're like, maybe like not the perfect, like my grandpa was strong, so I want to be too. Like, it can be like, I hate myself unless I do this. And that is
closer to home, but continue.
That's unhealthy, right? We want to start to work on that, but be where you're at and use what's at your disposal. And then that can change and warp as you move through your wellness journey, which is your body, mind, and spirit, right? Like, what are some of those things that you can like speak to from your own battles and consistency that you've managed?
Sure. Main thing is, it sounds redundant, like we're defining the word in the definition kind of thing.
Sure.
But it's finding a way to be consistent with the smallest barrier of entry first. That was profound to me, because it's very easy to pile on a bunch of things. You're like, well, I want to be faster. I want to be fitter. I want to be stronger. I want to eat this way. I want to do this and this and this. But just like start with one. For me, it was, I don't want to be a tiny, weak kid anymore. So before I started changing my diet for the better, my other habits for the better, my cardio for the better, it's just like, I need to get bigger.
That was the initial cornerstone.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's finding, and everyone's going to be different. And like you pointed out, there's going to be positive motivating factors and negative motivating factors. I would implore most people to try to find a positive motivating factor, like just looking at a bigger picture is like, oh, by the data, I can feel better. I can live longer. That's great. A lot of people, I think, when they really find themselves in the shit, it's, I hate the way I look. I hate the way I feel. These negative factors are the most profound, because you get to a low point and you're like, I cannot take this. Something has to give.
Yeah.
So that helps breed consistency, because you are so magnetically opposed to what you're currently going through when you finally hit that rock bottom. So for me, it was just, I started very small, very weak, and just didn't want to live that way. I just having no confidence. So that might be different with someone that they're just genetically gifted, and they're like, oh, well, that their motivation might be more tribal. It's like, oh, well, it's just it is socially acceptable to go to the gym, to be healthier, to look like a stud or a babe, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Whereas other people, they're like, no, I'm fucking getting bullied for being overweight or being a fucking beanpole person. And, you know, I see my friends that are all athletic and I am out of breath with walking upstairs. So that's been the profound shift. And it's really just the cobbling together of once you have something full, like when you've changed your habits, for me, it was exercising more. It got to the point where, okay, unfortunately, it was overtraining at the time, but because you're obsessed with being the opposite of what you are, I was training every single day. But it got to a point where, because I was so driven by the idea of not being a weak person anymore, my brain just filed that into commonplace. I never had to think about going to the gym anymore.
Sure.
So that pattern recognition in your brain, that conditioning, that programming, it's like, oh, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you look at the next step. You're like, okay, well, I'm eating like a bag of shit despite getting this other health-minded thing in motion.
Sure.
So then once that's fully online, it's like, okay, let's talk about the diet, because whether it be, you know, normal culture, bodybuilder culture, you know, competitive athletic culture, you know, the diet is a pillar to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then that was no longer eating like a 12-year-old or only eating fast food. It's just like, okay, this is now a function to my goals.
Okay.
And then really just filing that in, and it ceases to be profound once you do it long enough, because you're like, oh, this is just what it is.
Sure. It's become your new norm.
Right. And what is palpable though is how you feel when you wake up. You start seeing wholesale changes in the mirror. And even navigating lifestyles that don't help keep it consistent, like being a touring musician. Still, like once you feel the difference, like when you start seeing the changes and feeling the changes, it didn't matter if I was in a van for 8 hours a day or playing or whatever. Like I was going to find a way to work out, and I was going to find a way to not eat like a fucking piece of shit, because I didn't want the alternative anymore. The idea scared me physically of looking at a different way, more akin to my past. But also too, like when you really start like putting the time in, a couple years or more of better health choices, you're like, I will never go back. So that's personally for me. What about you?
I think I resonate deeply with the ebb and flow of things in terms of how my driving force has like changed, right? Like I can for sure resonate with the frailer frame. I'm super long and super lean. It's
the Long and Thick podcast.
There I am right there. And I mean, being a kid, it was like for sure aspects of bullying. I ended up becoming like a little bit of like a more frightening person, just like being crazy. So no one would really like fuck with me. But
like an overcorrection kind of thing.
Exactly. Past a certain point. But initially, like when you're like 8, 9, 10, and you're just like, your ribs are always showing, or like you have like an outie, even though you don't, because you're so skinny, like, or your wrists just look like your biceps. Like you have like sticks. It doesn't feel good. It didn't for me. And so the part of like self-hatred around my shape and form was for sure like a big thing that I attached to my identity, and still struggle with. I mean, I'm still thin. I'm the biggest I've ever been. I weigh the most I've ever weighed. But I still want more. And I'm still working towards that actively. But the bigger bird's eye of like, man, looking at my parents, looking at the norm of people that are like 70 and like confused, like that's not normal. It's not normal to like not be able to like bend over when you're, you know, and I think about how scared I feel being like, all the moans and groans of like moving, like, goodness gracious, that's a miserable existence, because wherever you go, there you are. And if everywhere you go is a miserable time, like in your body, that's on you. And like, it's not on anybody else. And so I think recognizing like, okay, I have to keep doing this thing. No one's going to do it for me. There's no easy way out. There's just not. in terms of like overall health and well-being.
Yeah.
You could put on mass easily. You can take a fuck ton of steroids and do other things. But at the end of the day, like you didn't better all of the aspects of yourself necessarily. Like there's a cost to that. So you might have hit your thing, but like for me personally, I'm thinking about the 65-year-old me and still like looking awesome.
Yeah.
And like feeling really good. And so those are really, really important for me, making sure my brain doesn't just like deteriorate, and how profound exercise is in that, like feeling like I'm sharp, feeling like I can keep learning, right? Like think clearly, perceive clearly. Like those are the things that I'm like, okay, that's a big part of my why. And it's subject to change.
Sure.
So when I think about some of the pitfalls of staying consistent, there is so much of it that does end up falling into your tribe as time goes on, right? Because I grew up, skating. I was always like active, but like started drinking really, really young, started smoking really, really young. And then the people that you no longer want to associate, that were like your core deep crew of like friends, and your new way of like trying to incorporate these parts of your life, there's a friction that will exist. There's no way around it. You're not going to have this like kumbaya circle with everybody in your life that's like, oh, you're doing this, let's all do this together. Like, no, it's probably going to be fallouts and things that are like hard to navigate.
There's going to be a metamorphosis for sure. As you start to change where you're aligned with, you will lose some and gain some in that shift. And that's just part of life.
It is.
But I think that's a really good call out, because a lot of this is going to be based around, a lot of people's adherence comes down to their support systems.
Yeah.
And whether it be family, social, emotional, it's a pretty prevalent factor. Because again, for some people that aren't motivated like you and I, that come from a more self-loathing aspect,
it's not enough.
It's not enough.
I wouldn't keep going. Like if I didn't have friendships like ours and others that they're like holding me accountable, and not in a way that's like, hey dude, did you work out today? It's like, it's just like, dude, you have to take care of yourself. Like, please be around.
Yeah. No, I think I think we should dive into that specifically, is the support system side of things.
Yeah. So we'll unpeel it more. Consistency is queen. I say,
yes,
she is the queen. Well, I always say your nervous system is queen. She is for real the queen. She drives literally everything. But in terms of your behaviors, the queen of the behavior show is consistency. I'd rather you be consistently showing up and doing less than just like going fucking bananas for like a month and then being like, I fell off, because there's no sustainability to that. And the support around consistency becomes really paramount when you're past March.
Yes.
Let's say we're talking about the person.
If you even get that far.
Correct. Right. So we're talking about the person who is either completely new to like embarking on fitness and taking their well-being into their own hands, or the person that has a goal that has been fit and just like still can't adhere to it. Like I'll connect with, we talked about this yesterday. I want to work on what's called a levitation squat this year. You're going to probably be like, yo, are you doing that still? Like what happened? Where's
that been?
Right. I haven't seen you do a single thing about it. Like what's good? So the support is like an absolute necessity. How did your like circle change? How did you manage some of the friction? You're going on tour, or your bandmates like, you fucking bastard. Like, yeah, you got to go find a gym and you need a rotisserie chicken. Like we're stopping at Taco Bell, and you're like, no, we're also stopping at the grocery store.
Or I'm walking while you're there. I'm figuring something out.
Sure. So like how do you navigate that? Did it become easier? Like give me some of that.
So the initial shift was just finding friends who were all fitness minded to begin with. So mine was coming out of surgeries that were reconstructing my torso. So I still had those friends, you know, before, during, and since.
Fitness driven people?
Yep.
Okay.
But I mean, maybe not on an obsessive lifestyle way, but enough to where it's a bunch of dudes in high school. They all want to look their best. They're all, you know, charged by the idea of our high school's football team. It's just, you know, get down to it. We all love, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff. And it's just this driving force that as boys will be boys, just get in the gym.
Meathead.
100%. Okay. So once I was all cleared to finally exercise post-surgery rehab, it was just aligning myself with them. And I knew in my heart that I really wanted to be more athletic, but I knew nothing. So it was just kind of following in with them and really just fumbling about and seeing how my body reacted or didn't react. But it was still a good enough sounding board to where it kept me motivated and interested because I saw the potential of where I could have been or where I will be because of how they were lifting and what they could do. But also because we shared a close friendship, emotional bond. There wasn't a ton of hazing around it. There wasn't a ton of like, what are you doing? Which can completely derail everything. So that was a benefit, is finding your circle of people that understand a similar goal and approach, but almost don't even talk about anything else but it.
Sure.
Which is nice because again, you're constantly locked in. You're reminded of the fact that we're all in this together. We're all trying to better ourselves. We're all trying to look hot, at least what we consider hot for, you know, suitable mates and all that kind of stuff. And it would be different if some people I've heard this several times from clients where they went to the gym with like a sibling.
Oh yeah.
And the vibes aren't right. So they're that extra cattiness or sibling rivalry completely obliterates their motivation.
Or couples, I see like, similar dynamics.
Some dynamics are great. Some are very toxic and hold you back, and you have to be willing to figure that out for yourself. But then moving past that into the music side of things, there was obviously more friction there because everyone, for the most part, is counter aligned with what I'm trying to do.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of touring time, it's very unremarkable. You're in a vehicle for 8 to 12 hours. You may be able to traipse around the city for a couple of those. Then it's just sitting around doing nothing, and it's scrolling on phones and
getting ready, do your show, get in, get out, do it again.
So if I'm sitting there being like, hey, can we stop here because I don't want to eat fast food? It's a lot of eye rolls and scoffs. And this is nothing about the philosophical point of it, but you know, I've always eaten a full faculty diet. And a lot of times in my touring, it just so happened to be in partnership with vegans, which is a whole other complexity, both in terms of philosophically, oh, you're fit, but also philosophically like, oh, like you're eating animals and this is a problem. It's like, well, it's going to be what it is. Like, I'm not stopping. You're not stopping. So let's just agree to disagree. Drop me off over there. You can satisfy your vegan diet. And then when we're back at the venue, you can go walk around the city and I'm going to knock out like a half hour's worth of workouts. So that thankfully was more of a product that the previous sets of friends and, you know, acquaintances got me consistent enough to where I could autopilot, have my own autonomy. And when things actually were presented as roadblocks, it's like, no, fuck you. Like, this is, my health is most important. And I see you all complain about your haggard ass bodies and what sleeping on a floor can do to you and the groans that you make trying to navigate life. And it's like, dude, like I can ninja roll around all of you and just be fine. So that was the shift, is like starting with the right support group and having that set the tone for my consistency over many years, to where then at some point it was unwavering. Like some person to being like, dude, why are you working out? Or why do you want to do that? Like that was not going to take me off the path.
No more chips in the armor. I think, and you probably, I don't know that you would have landed there. I don't know that I would have landed here without the initial like latching on to that support that was non-hazing.
Right.
If you can imagine someone saying like, hey, I want to start running, and you go and work out at a run meetup, and everyone was like, dude, you're a fat fuck, you're slow. You would literally never go back and never run again.
100%.
But the flip side of that is so immensely convicting and empowering and like beautiful is if you want to get better at something, latch onto someone who's better than you are. Mm-hmm. You want to get better at skateboarding, skate with people that are better than you. You're going to stop just ollieing on the ground. You're going to try to do shit.
Yeah.
You want to get better with your money, hang out with people that are better with their money. Like it's the same thing with fitness. You want to be faster, run with someone faster. You want to be stronger, lift with someone stronger. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to stay consistent, you need that. Past that initial like burst of that first month of bliss and ecstasy, like you need some level of somebody guiding the ship, which is where we can come in financially. You can pay for it, which is a beautiful thing, and will uptick the likelihood of you adhering. If I threw you $1,000 to train me for the month, I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, I'm tired and be like, fuck, I just dropped $1,000. Like I better go do the thing. Yeah. Right. So that can work in your favor, but you really want to make sure that you find somebody who can, or people that align with like celebrating what are your victories. Mm-hmm. You single leg curl more pretty much than I'll do with both legs. I don't see that. And I'm like, ugh. And when I curl, and it's heavy for me, you're like, fuck yeah, dude.
Fucking get after
You've
it.
never ever been like, wow, that's it. Look at this. Those people, you don't need any of that. Like they don't serve you. There's something deeply fucked up with them that they're like shitting on yucking your yum, so to speak. Right. Like, I think it's such a funny thing.
It's a funny statement.
Especially with like lifting, like, ew, don't yuck my yum. But you really need to like be celebrated for those wins.
For sure.
But not just, getting addicted to the like, oh, someone patted my back. That's the same thing as performing to a degree. There's balances and there's multiple aspects to this, right? Like you were talking about, you're going to run out of that initial like hard 75 where people are like, wow, this is impressive. And they stop liking the story. They stop replying. No one cares anymore. It's the same redundant shit. If I put up a hard like sprint and see my heart rate's like 205, no one's like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, and that's not enough for me to keep doing that.
So to that point, what do you do when you can see that the honeymoon phase is over and you can't constantly reiterate the same check-in because it ceases to be as remarkable as the start and everyone's like cheering you on?
Yeah.
How do you change where you look to for support when you have then eclipsed the big boom in the beginning and things become a little bit more flatlined? Where do you go? What do you look for for support in that respect?
For me personally, it's a balance of a lot of things. The first and most crucial of which I would say is looking at myself. And I'd ask myself like, why do you care that much? Mm-hmm. And once I can like sit with that and just sort of feel the like, yeah, like that's, no one really cares that much anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's not cool or impressive, or you're not the fastest or the strongest. Like this is just your thing. And just appreciate that I am expressing my body's ability to do something and how grateful I should be for that. I think that's a big thing for me personally, especially when I work with people that are injured, handicapped, have been dealt a hand that I'm like, I couldn't handle this as well as you. Like you were born deformed and like very different, and your like attitude and spirits are like blow my shit out of the water.
Yeah. They're showing up constantly and you're like, oh, I didn't want to do something today. And you're like, get the fuck over it.
Yeah. And then switching from the like, you piece of garbage to like, you get to feel this. Yes. Look at how like I can do stuff and like, it just doesn't hurt and it feels good. And like, that's it's such a profound expression of just like being able to move, like the joy of existing and being able to express that in movement.
They don't get to see you as a singing, dancing sprite like I do.
That's right. Yeah. You're one of the lucky few. So I think that's a big part of it. And then I think the other part comes down to like my check-ins with people like yourself and friends that I'm like, and I look to and see there, like sometimes when I'm like, on the dip of my motivation and consistency, and you're like there doing your thing, I'm like, I need to keep going. Not for you, but it's just like he did it.
Yeah.
So I can too.
100%.
She did it, so I can too. Wow. I really admire that trait when I see someone do things that they don't want to. And I want to be more like that. And it's a skill that you have to keep like sharpening and working at, and you'll get better at it. So
sure. And you also don't know who you are directly inspiring just the same.
And you may never.
Yeah. But that is a really cool subliminal effect. And I know it's like such a thankless job because people, like you're saying, I will look around and when I don't want to do something, same thing. It's just like, they're still making it happen. There's nothing actually holding me back rather than just me being either lazy or not fully motivated or what. But if you are out there doing your thing, bettering yourself in any capacity and just showing up and even doing the least, you do not know who you could be permanently changing for the better just by showing up that one day.
Yeah.
And showing someone else what is possible, what consistency looks like.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty profound.
On that too, like something else that really gives me like a pretty cool boost is if I see someone, especially around this time of year, like who has been struggling with their weight or something along those lines and they're running. I want to like pull my car over and like scream and celebrate them and just be like, you are the fucking best.
Yeah.
Like you are the most gangster person there is because you're doing the thing that is like so hard. And I've never had to battle that struggle. Being so naturally thin is like very glorified.
Yeah.
And it comes
Our
with
misery
its
comes
own,
in the kitchen because we're hunched over a bowl of food and like, God fucking damn it. How much more do I have to eat to put on a pound
literally
this month?
Yes. And it's that is a really big struggle for me and has been for a long time. And I can't relate to knowing what it feels like to be overweight. And one of my closest friends shared a analogy with me that I'll never forget. He said, imagine feeling constantly embarrassed no matter what. And I was like, it just like mic drop. Every part of me was like, whoa, like the shirt pulling, the like feeling like you need to adjust yourself because you're not good enough. You don't look good enough. You're whatever. And you fundamentally are like bad. It's like, imagine that all the time. And I was like, that is so heavy and not empowering.
Right.
Like that. Wow. So when I see people fighting that, I'm like, holy fuck, I really do have no reason. You're moving like way less weight than me and you're still doing your thing and you're not worried. Maybe you are worried about the people around you judging you and you're still doing it.
Yeah.
Fuck yes. Like that's it right there. That's what it's all about.
Speaking of fighting against things, whether it be your own personal demons, social friction, whatever, I think a lot of what we have to contend with is simplifying very complex things for people.
Yes.
In terms of trying to take on too much or conflicting inputs that can keep you right where you started. Tell me a little bit about how you see New Year's, especially resolution stuff, make things too complicated, which completely obliterates the idea of consistency, of ever taking shape. Yeah.
So you mentioned something earlier when you're talking about your initial like cornerstone. And I just sort of saw a picture in my mind of like yourself standing in front of 10 mountains. No one in their right mind would look at them and say, I'm going to climb all of them at once. A, you physically can't.
Sure.
But B, it's just like, you don't even think that. But we do that when it comes to our goals. And some of these things are fucking mountainous ventures. And it takes a long ass time to scale and descend and go up the next and go up the next. And by the end, you've hit the range. But that's quite the journey. So I think when you are starting things out, less is more.
Sure.
Consistency is queen. Come up with a way to manage your time and expectations around what you think you're going to be able to do in 6 months, in a year. Can you work out twice a week, every week? I'd rather you do that than 5 times for 2 weeks and then never again.
Yeah.
I'd rather you work out once a week and say, this is my goal. I'm going to do this once a week. You're still climbing the mountain. Don't discredit that. Don't disqualify that. You don't need to make this massive, massive change. You're still winning. Mm-hmm. That's where that shift needs to happen instead of this massive, massive like overhaul of every component of your life.
True.
Less is more. Bite off what you can chew and keep chewing until you're ready for the next bite. There's a push to it. There's a growth. You do need to go to 2 days. You do need to get to 3, but it's not this forever compounding thing where it's like you have to work out two times a day for 7 days a week. That's not the point you get to. You just need to make sure that fundamentally you set yourself up to do what you can do. You need support systems to help you align that. And that's where hopefully we can come in. Other people in your community can come in and celebrate you and push you. And that's where that growth, like, hey, let's hit a Saturday workout. If it's every other week,
sure.
You want to go for like that's it. That's snowball. And we don't want that, right? Like we want the quick stuff. How do you balance now that you have attained that? Once you're there, like, can you shed some light on like the weight off your shoulders, kind of like from passing out of that initial hurdle to like it becoming part of your, more synthesized life, like, the ease of that, just like the difference, the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Like,
yeah, we've kind of talked about it several times in different iterations, but you have to look at it like you're compounding investments.
Yeah.
At a certain point, if you invest enough, like they say, like your first 100,000 is the hardest thing. And in terms of like net value, everything after that is pretty meteoric. Like once you've hurdled that, and that's kind of what I found with myself, colleagues, family. If you can get to like 7 to 10 years of just making it work, maybe not perfect. It's going to have lots of ebbs and flows.
Perfect, yeah.
It's not going to be linear, but when you zoom out, it's going to be pretty linear. If you zoom out enough, it's going to be pretty much up and to the right, which is great.
Yeah.
But the main thing is just like losing track of it and just continuing, just making it innate. Don't think about it.
Yeah.
Try to push yourself each little bit, okay, is my diet too far gone? Okay, I'm gonna start trimming down just a little bit week after week. Is, my cardio network is gonna be, okay, I'm gonna add 2 minutes to every cardio session week after week. Is just very low friction changes that you can very slowly accrue these wins over time. And when you do it for 7 to 10 years, at that point, it's not like you've won the game. It's not like you stop, but you're afforded so much freedom. I was incredibly militant about tracking all of my food, all of my workouts, and I still am with the workout side of things to ensure that I'm getting stronger. But when you put in enough good miles to your diet and your fitness, it's not sexy to think about like, oh, I'm going to do something for 10 years, but just look at it as an academic proxy.
Yeah.
You put in 10 years in law or med school, your life is set past that.
Right.
And your health can be the same exact way.
Yep.
And that has just been it for me, is like, now that I've gotten here, it's so much easier to manage because all of that heavy climb, I get to stay at like a plateau in a way, because of these systems are in place. But because of that, so much better instincts have been developed. You're not stuck in the weeds of like, oh, am I doing enough this week? Or do I need to track everything? No, with the experience, you're not sanctioned or imprisoned by these habits originally, which they feel like more grievous than they actually are.
Yeah.
These boxes that you have to hold yourself in,
yep.
But it's a necessary stepping stone to when you really put in your 10,000 hours or your 10 years in this game.
Yeah.
Everything after that is very, very simple.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, we did the hard stuff and now we just get to cruise.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to recommend to everybody. It's like literally play the long game.
Yep. That is like, again, a universal principle of like all these things exist in multiple spheres of like connect the dots for yourself in some way that makes sense. You don't expect to be a great painter just after starting. So like, it's the long road.
Yeah.
If people have questions, they can find us on Instagram. We'll tag some stuff in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Feel free to reach out. We're happy to help is what we're here for. Again, consistency is queen. You need people in your corner that are better than you, that are worse than you, to like be part of that community and that journey. And don't get lost in the weeds. Less is more. Keep on going. Stay consistent.
Yeah, it really is. Just always keep on going. If you can leave anyone with one tip for absolute consistency, what would it be?
That's a good question. I would say don't let yourself take more than, 2 to 3 days off at outside of like an extenuating circumstance. Give yourself some grace and wiggle room. It's okay to like ebb and flow, but like make sure you do some form of something on that within that third day. You don't want to lose that momentum. Even for us now, it's like the same thing.
Sure.
So
if we're too far off, we do vacation or come back. I mean, obviously we try to adhere to stuff while on vacation without compromising the quality of the time of the people around us.
Exactly.
But I would agree with that. I mean, once you really start falling out of sorts, 3 days and beyond, habits really start falling by the wayside. And before you know it, you blink and you're 2, 4, 6 months out of the game.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
How did that happen? So I think that's a really good call out, is that something as simple as 3 days of a lapse can be damning downstream for sure.
Yeah. Right on. Well, it's been a pleasure as always.
Likewise, my friend. Long and thick, baby.
That's right. Until next time. Peace in the crease.